A staggering 75% of Hollywood blockbusters contain catastrophic plot holes that could have been avoided with better storytelling techniques. When we watch a movie, our minds are constantly trying to fill in the gaps, making assumptions about the story based on what we see and hear. However, most viewers don't realize that some of these assumptions are based on flawed storytelling techniques that can ruin the entire experience. Let's take a look at some of the worst fails in movie storytelling and how they can be avoided. From overused tropes to confusing plot twists, we'll explore the most common mistakes that filmmakers make and how to fix them. We'll also examine the impact of these mistakes on the audience and how they can affect the overall enjoyment of the movie. By understanding these common pitfalls, you'll be better equipped to create engaging stories that captivate your audience. So, let's dive into the world of movie storytelling and discover the secrets to creating unforgettable cinematic experiences. Imagine a movie where the protagonist is presented with a clear goal and motivation from the very beginning. Sounds simple, right? But in reality, this is a common mistake that many filmmakers make. A clear goal and motivation are essential for creating a compelling narrative that keeps the audience invested. But what happens when the protagonist's goal is unclear or motivation is lacking?
The entire story can fall apart, leaving the audience feeling confused and disconnected.
This phenomenon occurs when the fails to writer provide fey. It's like trying to build a house without a solid foundation. It's bound to collapse eventually. So, how can you avoid this mistake and create a compelling narrative? One effective way is to use the Save the Cat beat sheet, which provides a clear structure for the story. This beat sheet includes 15 key plot points that help to create a clear goal and motivation for the protagonist. But what if the writer is still unsure about how to create a clear goal and motivation? In that case, they can use the what-if technique to brainstorm ideas and possibilities. This technique involves asking what-if questions to explore different scenarios and plot twists. For example, what if the protagonist's goal is not what it seems? Or what if the motivation is not what we expected? By using the what-if technique, writers can create a rich and complex narrative that keeps the audience guessing. But what about the impact of these mistakes on the audience? When the protagonist's goal and motivation are unclear, the audience can become confused and disconnected. This can lead to a decrease in engagement and a loss of interest in the story. So, how can filmmakers avoid this mistake and create an engaging narrative? One effective way is to use the show don't tell technique. This technique involves showing the audience the protagonist's goal and motivation through action and dialogue, rather than telling them through exposition. For example, the protagonist is determined to save the world is a tell, but the protagonist is seen training with a sword and practicing their combat skills is a show. By using the show don't tell technique, writers can create a clear and compelling narrative that engages the audience. But what about the most common mistakes that filmmakers make? One of the most common mistakes is the use of overused tropes and clichés. For example, the chosen one trope is a common mistake that can make the story feel predictable and unoriginal. Another common mistake is the use of confusing plot twists. Plot twists that are too complex or convoluted can leave the audience feeling confused and disconnected. So, how can filmmakers avoid these mistakes and create an original and engaging narrative? One effective way is to use the reverse engineering technique. This technique involves taking a familiar story or trope and turning it on its head. For example, the hero's journey is a familiar trope, but what if the hero was not the main character? By using the reverse engineering technique, writers can create an original and engaging narrative that stands out from the crowd. But what about the impact of these mistakes on the audience? When the story is predictable and unoriginal, the audience can become bored and disconnected. This can lead to a decrease in engagement and a loss of interest in the story. So, how can filmmakers avoid this mistake and create an engaging narrative? One effective way is to use the surprise and delight technique. This technique involves surprising the audience with unexpected plot twists and turns. For example, the villain is not what we expected, or the protagonist has a secret that changes the story entirely. By using the surprise and delight technique, writers can create a compelling narrative that keeps the audience engaged and interested. But what about the most common mistakes that filmmakers make? One of the most common mistakes is the lack of character development. When the characters are not fully developed, the audience can become disconnected and uninvested in the story. So, how can filmmakers avoid this mistake and create an engaging narrative? One effective way is to use the character arc technique. This technique involves showing the character's growth and development throughout the story. For example, the protagonist starts as a hero, but becomes a villain, or the protagonist learns a valuable lesson that changes them forever. By using the character arc technique, writers can create a compelling narrative that engages the audience. But what about the impact of these mistakes on the audience? When the characters are not fully developed, the audience can become confused and disconnected. This can lead to a decrease in engagement and a loss of interest in the story. So, how can filmmakers avoid this mistake and create an engaging narrative? One effective way is to use the dialogue technique. This technique involves using dialogue to reveal character traits and backstory. For example, the protagonist says something that reveals their true personality, or the character's dialogue reveals their motivations and desires. By using the dialogue technique, writers can create a compelling narrative that engages the audience. But what about the most common mistakes that filmmakers make? One of the most common mistakes is the use of too many subplots. When there are too many subplots, the audience can become confused and disconnected. So, how can filmmakers avoid this mistake and create an engaging narrative? One effective way is to use the focus on the main plot technique. This technique involves focusing on the main plot and subordinating the subplots. For example, the main plot is the protagonist's journey, and the subplots are the supporting characters' storylines. By using the focus on the main plot technique, writers can create a compelling narrative that engages the audience. So, what can you take away from this analysis of worst fails in movie storytelling? By understanding these common pitfalls, you'll be better equipped to create engaging stories that captivate your audience. Remember, the key to creating a compelling narrative is to focus on the main plot and subordinating the subplots. Use the show, don't tell technique to reveal character traits and backstory through action and dialogue. Avoid overused tropes and clichés by using the reverse engineering technique. And finally, surprise the audience with unexpected plot twists and turns using the surprise and delight technique. By following these tips, you'll be well on your way to creating unforgettable cinematic experiences that engage and captivate your audience.
If you found this analysis fascinating, subscribe for more incredible stories like this. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comments section below.
Want more mind-blowing facts? Please let me know in the comments section below.